each time. So just make sure you have your cameras up and ready. Now this first part of the reserve we're about to enter on into right now is called Little Attiri Forest, and it is home to some shyer creatures that like to use their natural camouflage to blend on into their surroundings. And there are a lot of trees and bushes and bamboo for them to hide behind. So let's just see what we can spot. Coming up all the way on your right, you might be able to see that animal all the way back there that kind of looks like half of a zebra and half of a horse. That is an okapi. It's not related to the zebra at all. It's actually the only known relative of the giraffe. And there's two ways you can tell. One, they both have ossicones, which are fur-covered false horns on their head. And two, they both have 18-inch long tongues, which they use to reach branches and leaves. Now, the okapi was not discovered until 1901, so it's a fairly recent discovery into the animal kingdom. Now, sometimes on your left-hand side around here, you might be able to see a black rhinoceros, although they are extremely rare. Unfortunately, there are less than 5,000 of them left in the world because they're being poached for those horns of theirs. And those horns of theirs are just made out of keratin, which is the same substance as our hair and fingernails. Now, they're also the smaller of the two African rhinos, but they still weigh around 3,000 pounds. So they're not too small. You can kind of see them walking all the way up there. There's actually a closer one. It's still going to be on your left. A little bit less active. Kind of blends in very easily. And he is right there. Now, coming up on your right-hand side, you're going to see two different kinds of deer-like looking creatures. Some have horns and some don't. The ones that don't are greater kudu, and those are the female of the species. They're the second tallest antelopes in Africa. The ones with horns are bongos, and bongos are known as ghosts of the forest because they're very shy and elusive, and they move very silently through the brush. Both female and male bongos have those horns. Female bongos' horns are a little bit darker, and male bongos' horns are a little bit lighter. But if you didn't get to see them very well, it's alright because there's still a lot more to be seen. And we are going to be leaving Little Attiri Forest and entering on into the Safi River. Now, the Safi River is the place to be, especially if you like crocodiles or hippos, because they're both known to hang out around here. Now, if you're on the right-hand side, you're going to see the Safi River first, and if you're on the left-hand side, you're going to see it second. So just make sure you stay seated again at all times, because I believe coming up on your right, yep, there's a hippo right down there. Make sure you stay seated for me, though, sitting all the way down for me. Now, those hippos are excellent swimmers. Make sure you sit on down for me, please. Thank you. But if they can, they will just walk along the bottom because they're very lazy. And they can hold their breath for about 6 to 8 minutes at a time. So they like to stay underwater to stay cool in because they get dehydrated very easily. Again, if you are on the left, there's a lot on your left right over there. Now, that huge group of hippos on your left is called a bloat, so that's a bloat of hippos. And they're right behind this pod of pink-backed pelicans. Now, pink-backed pelicans get their name from the gorgeous pink backs they get during mating season, which is actually right now. Some of them you can't tell because their wings are covering them. They have very light pink backs. And there's also a hippo right at the edge of the island. Kind of looks like a rock. Right back there. Now, if you notice that the majority of their facial features are on top of their heads, that's so when they need to come up for air, they can just pop their heads up out of the water. They don't have to fully resurface every single time. They usually only ever come up on land at night because they're nocturnal, or when they're eating because they like to eat grass because they're herbivores. For those carnivores I was telling you about, those Nile crocodiles are going to be all the way down on your lower left-hand side. Now, Nile crocodiles can grow to be about 20 feet long. And if you ever see one with its mouth open, it's not trying to be scary and it's not hungry. That is what they do to cool off. Now we're going to be moving on into the Serengeti grasslands or the savannah. Either name works. Usually here you get to see some giraffes, maybe some elephants, because this is a place that they call home. But the first thing you're going to be seeing isn't going to be an animal, it's actually going to be a plant, which doesn't sound very interesting, but it's an interesting plant, and it's none of these, but it will be coming up on your right-hand side. It is that tree right there. Now that is a baobab tree. Make sure you're sitting down for me, please. They're also known as upside down trees because their branches kind of look like roots. 9 months out of the year, you won't see them with any leaves because that is what they do to conserve water. Because they have to supply for those huge trunks of theirs. When they do have leaves, sometimes they produce a fruit, which is actually edible by all different kinds of animals, including us humans. Now these are those Serengeti grasslands I was telling you about. They're used as a superhighway by a lot of animals here, because a lot of animals here migrate across them. You can probably see all those giraffes on your left, although they're going to be on your right by the time we get to them. But all the giraffes you're going to be seeing are Maasai giraffes. That is M-A-S-A-I. I say that because there are 9 different subspecies of giraffes. And yes, there are some baby giraffes. There's about 3 of them. They're a very dark brown color. They have a lacy pattern to them. Some people think they kind of look like oak leaves. Fully grown, they're about 20 feet tall, just like that male is right in the middle. He's 20 feet tall. But when they're first born, they're only about 6 feet tall. And a group of them is called a tower. So that is a tower of giraffes. The females are more around 16 feet tall. But as you can see, all of the animals here are free roaming, so they have the right to go wherever they please. But they don't like to stay in one place for too long. And when they go from place to place, sometimes they have to cross the road to do so, which happens a lot here. Usually it's pretty quick, but sometimes they like to take their time or just stop right in the middle of the road. Either way, it's pretty entertaining if you're a truck that is right behind an animal. But if you're a couple of trucks behind that one, then it's just a nice little waiting game. Now coming up on your left-hand side, you're going to see some antelopes. You're going to see some sable antelopes. They're pretty significant because they're the emblem of Brown Bear Reserve. So there's also some baby sable antelopes as well. They kind of look like goats because they don't quite have their horns yet. They just have little spikes.